Out on your favourite dirt track, long after the motors of our younger days quit ringing across the hills, certain machines still manage to pull us back again. Maybe it's the irresistible thump of a big single on a crisp morning, or the scent of two-stroke oil wafting out of a workshop that hasn't really changed since forever. These were never fancy motorcycles. They weren't fragile, they were straightforward. Built for riders who packed a sandwich, kicked the starter until their leg ached, and spent a whole day reaching for the horizon and cementing new memories. And now, decades later, those same off-road bruisers are discovering a renewed life, not as worn-out trail haulers or motocrossers way past their peak, but as treasures worth restoring, preserving, and handing down. Let's take a look at 10 bikes that have definitely earned it. Before the words dual sport or adventure bike became mainstream, there was one machine that defined what a big bore, go-anywhere motorcycle could be. A bike that changed off-road riding forever. This is the story of the Yamaha TT 500, the thumper that launched a movement. Simple, reliable, brutally tough. A bike that racers, desert riders and weekend explorers all trusted with their lives. In the mid-1970s, the off-road scene was exploding. Two-strokes still dominated motocross and enduro racing, but riders wanted something different. A four-stroke with torque, range, and real durability. In 1976, Yamaha answered with the TT 500, a purpose-built, big-bore thumper made for serious off-road work. It wasn't a converted street bike. It wasn't a modified trail bike. It was a pure off-road weapon, right out of the crate. The TT 500's heart was a legendary 499 cubic centimetre single-cylinder engine, air-cooled, durable and overflowing with grunt. It wasn't complicated, but it didn't need to be. Riders respected it because it always delivered big torque, long range and reliability that made it almost impossible to kill. Kickstarting it took skill, but once the big thumper fired up, the TT 500 could go anywhere. With long travel suspension, a lightweight chassis, and slim bodywork, the TT 500 was surprisingly agile for a big four-stroke of its era. Riders loved its stability at speed, its traction in loose terrain, and its tractor-like ability to climb anything put in front of it. What truly cemented the TT 500's place in history was its racing success. Rally riders on TT-based machines famously won the Paris-Dakar Rally in the late 1970s, proving that a simple air-cooled thumper could dominate the harshest race on Earth. In Europe, on current classified style listings, some TT 500s are offered for amounts, after currency conversion, suggesting values roughly equivalent to 7,000 to 12,000 euros, which at current exchange rates would be in the ballpark of 7,500 to 13,000 US dollars. And many of these appear to be either unrestored, project bikes, or with varying condition and mileage. In the 1980s, Honda's XR lineup set the standard for what a real trail bike should be: simple, tough, and built to handle anything you could throw at it. But sitting quietly in the middle of that lineup was a machine that never got the fame it deserved. The Honda XR 350R, a bike that blended the reliability of Honda's trail bikes with performance far beyond what most riders expected. Released in 1983, the 350R filled the gap between the lightweight XR 250 and the big bore XR 500. Riders wanted something powerful enough for racing, but manageable on tight single track, and Honda delivered exactly that. What made the mid-sized XR special was its RF VC 4-valve engine, a radial valve design that gave it a cleaner burn, stronger mid-range, and remarkable torque for a mid-sized thumper. With roughly 30 horsepower, a 6-speed gearbox, and long-travel Pro-Link suspension, it was fast, nimble, and incredibly versatile for its time. On the trail, the XR 350 hit a perfect balance, smoother than the 500, stronger than the 250, and absolutely bulletproof thanks to its simple air-cooled engineering. Riders race them in Baja, hare scrambles and local enduros, often surprising two-stroke competitors. By 1985, the 350R disappeared from Honda's catalogue, overshadowed by bigger and smaller models. But today, it stands as one of Honda's most underrated off-road machines. A perfectly balanced, beautifully engineered trail bike that many riders still wish Honda would bring back. For a 1985 model, a recent sale at auction fetched about $4,550 suggesting that a well-kept, desirable example can reach that level. A realistic market value in the US today for a well-maintained or properly restored original, running well with no major mechanical or cosmetic issues, is likely in the US $3,500 to $5,500 range. While it wasn't considered a great bike in its day, the 1981 Honda CR 450R is now a highly sought-after classic for collectors, and for good reason. When the 450R first came out, it came with a reputation: powerful, raw, unpredictable. Many riders found it wild and difficult to control, but decades later that same rawness, that edge of danger, is exactly what gives it character and collector appeal. The 1981 CR carried a big bore two-stroke engine, and at that time 4-stroke motocross bikes were rarely seen. That meant torque like a freight train, brutal from the bottom up, with a power band that demanded respect and skill. Handling? It was raw. Suspension? Basic. But it was honest and tough. A machine that didn't compromise. Riders either mastered it or remembered it for the wrong reasons. Today, those qualities plus rarity, history and nostalgia make it a classic that draws attention. For collectors, a clean, complete example isn't just a bike. It's a statement. It's the kind of machine that evokes the gritty early days of two-stroke motocross, when power came unrefined, when the line between hero and zero was very thin. As for value, decent but fair examples of 1981 450R might attract offers around $6,000 to $8,000, depending on condition, completeness, and originality. A truly excellent matching numbers, well-preserved or properly restored CR 450R, with documentation and all correct parts, could fetch US $10,000 or more in today's classic bike market. That old reputation may have been rough, but nowadays the 1981 Honda CR 450R stands tall, as a wild legend turned coveted classic. The year was 1973. The bike was the Honda XR75. Styled on the hugely popular Honda CR 250M, it became an instant success. The little Honda XR started its career as a race bike, but was soon surpassed by better, faster competition. But even though it wasn't the fastest or the most powerful bike of its time, it instantly became a legend. For thousands of young riders, the XR75 was their very first real dirt bike. The machine that taught them how to shift, slide, fall, get back up, and fall in love with riding. The original XR75 had a simple bulletproof 72cc 4-stroke engine, a lightweight frame, and just enough suspension to make a kid feel unstoppable. It became the ultimate youth motocrosser, reliable, cheap to run, and built to survive endless weekends of hard riding. And unlike the temperamental two-strokes, it started easily, ran clean, and didn't punish beginners. Honda updated the bike through the 70s. The 1975 and 1976 models brought revised frames and styling, and the 77 to 78 versions added improved suspension and cleaner power delivery. Each update made the XR75 a little better, a little tougher, and even more beloved by the young riders who grew up with it. Today, the XR75 is far more than a mini bike. It's a piece of childhood for an entire generation. Collectors chase early models, especially 1973 to 1974 first gens, which now command surprisingly strong prices. Depending on condition, a clean bike can bring $2,000 to $4,000, while a fully restored first-year example can climb even higher among serious collectors. In the late 1970s, Harley-Davidson tried something almost no one expected. They attempted to build a serious motocross bike. The result was the 1978 Harley-Davidson MX 250, a machine that has become one of the rarest and most fascinating oddities in American motorcycle history. On paper, the bike had real potential. Built in partnership with Ermacchi in Italy, it featured a lightweight frame, competitive suspension for its time, and a punchy two-stroke engine designed to go head-to-head with the dominant Japanese motocrossers. Harley wanted to prove they could compete in dirt. And the MX 250 was supposed to be their breakthrough. But reality had other plans. The MX 250 arrived late to the market, development was rushed, and reliability issues held it back. Dealers didn't know how to support it, racers didn't trust it, and Harley riders weren't exactly lining up for a high-strung two-stroke motocrosser. Fewer than 1,000 were ever built, and Harley abandoned the project almost as quickly as it began. And that's exactly why the MX 250 is so collectible today. It's rare, weird, historically important, and represents a moment when Harley-Davidson tried to break the rules and paid the price. Because production numbers were so low, surviving examples command strong interest among collectors. Depending on originality and condition, a 1978 MX 250 typically sells for $6,000 to $12,000, with pristine restorations pushing even higher due to extreme rarity. In the early 1980s, Yamaha unleashed one of the wildest open-class enduro machines ever built, the Yamaha IT 490. Even today, the 490 has a reputation that borders on mythical. It wasn't just powerful, it was unstoppable. A bike built for riders who wanted to tame the biggest, gnarliest terrain with nothing more than raw two-stroke fury and sheer determination. The heart of the IT 490 was a massive 487cc, air-cooled two-stroke that delivered torque like a tractor and top-end hit like a freight train. It didn't beg to be revved, it made power everywhere. Twist the throttle and the world blurred. Open-class bikes were already intimidating, but the IT 490 took things a step further. It was fast, ferocious, and had a personality you didn't forget. Its long-travel suspension, wide-ratio gearbox, and big fuel tank turned it into a desert weapon. Baja riders loved it. Enduro racers respected it. Trail riders feared it, then fell in love with it. It wasn't perfect. Jetting quirks and pinging became part of its legend, but toughness and simplicity carried it to cult status. Today, the IT 490 stands as one of Yamaha's most iconic big-bore two-strokes, a symbol of an era when motorcycles were powerful, uncomplicated, and occasionally a little dangerous. Depending on condition, values typically range from $3,000 to $6,000, with clean original examples, especially 1983 to 1984 models, pushing higher among collectors. In 1984, Honda unleashed a motorcycle that instantly earned a fearsome reputation, the Honda CR 500. A machine that would go down in history as one of the most powerful and intimidating two-strokes ever built. And it all started with this first-year monster. The 1984 CR 500 wasn't refined, it wasn't polished, it was a brute, a bike that seemed engineered for one purpose, to terrify anyone brave enough to twist the throttle. Its 491cc air-cooled two-stroke produced a savage, explosive hit that came on fast and hit even harder. Riders joked that the power band had two modes, idle and launch. Handling it demanded strength, quick reflexes, and total focus. The suspension by modern standards was basic, and the chassis flexed under the enormous torque. But that unpredictability became part of its legend. Those who mastered it loved it. Those who didn't remembered it for the rest of their lives. The 1984 model lasted only 1 year before Honda switched to liquid cooling, making the air-cooled version one of the rarest and most collectible CR 500s ever produced. It represents the purest form of open-class insanity, untamed, unforgiving, and unforgettable. Today, collectors chase clean 1984 500s for their rarity and historical importance. Depending on condition, values typically range from $6,000 to $12,000 USD, with pristine low-hour examples climbing even higher as the big bore two-stroke era becomes more iconic with every passing year. In the late 1960s, Suzuki was preparing to step onto the world motocross stage, and at the centre of that push was the extremely rare 1968 Suzuki TM 250. Long before Suzuki became known for championship-winning RM models, this early TM series prototype turned production bike marked the company's first true attempt at building a serious, competitive motocross machine. The 1968 TM 250 wasn't a mass-market motorcycle. It was built in very small numbers, created primarily for factory development and racing efforts as Suzuki tried to crack the European and American motocross scenes. Lightweight, raw and mechanically simple, the TM carried a compact two-stroke engine that delivered strong mid-range power and a surprisingly aggressive top end for its era. Riders described it as a test mule with race instincts. Not refined, not polished, but quick enough to scare far more established brands. Its biggest legacy came from its purpose. The early TM 250 program laid the groundwork for Suzuki's explosive rise in motocross. Joel Roberts' world titles, the iconic TM 400, and eventually the RM series all trace their lineage back to these early experimental bikes. Because so few of the 1968 TMs are believed to have survived. Many were raced hard or blown up, it has become one of the rarest vintage Suzukis in existence, and indeed one of the rarest dirt bikes in history period. Collectors treat them like museum pieces, and prices reflect that. Depending on originality and documentation, a surviving 1968 TM250 can bring anywhere from $50,000 to over $100,000 for exact factory correct examples. So next time you're in your local motorcycle scrapyard, keep your eyes peeled for anything old, blue and chrome. You might just unearth a fortune. Okay, let's finish off with a quick look at some other notable collector's bikes that are pulling big money nowadays. The 1973 Honda CR 250M Elsinore, the first modern mass-produced US production MX bike. Steve McQueen ads definitely boosted the hype for this bike. Expect to pay upwards of $12,000. The beautiful 1965 CZ250 twin-port GP-winning replica, Joel Roberts' 1964 250cc title. If you can find one, it will set you back in the vicinity of $12,000 US. The stunning 1968 Bultaco 360 El Bandido, the powerful Spanish 360cc with Scrambler and MX variants. $15,000 might get you one.